Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to talk about slope and graphing linear equations in slope-intercept form. Okay, so for today, when you think about slope, I want you to think about skiing, right? If you're a skier and you like to ski, if you think about the best possible types of slopes you can be on, it's the steepest ones, right? That's the best thrill. Well, that's the idea. Slope means steepness. And basically, it's a non-vertical line which passes through 2 points, and it can be expressed, slope can be expressed as a ratio of the rise over the run. So slope is a ratio of the rise over the run of change in the y values over the change in the x values. It's also known as the change in the rise over the change in the run. They also see it, you can also see it in this form, which is the y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And I'm going to get to exactly what that means in just a minute. But basically, when we're trying to find a slope of a line, we're going to use different forms. I'm going to show you a couple different ways you can do it, and it'll really be up to you how you want to do it. Okay, so that's the idea with slope. Now, if you have a positive slope, that means the line increases from left to right. Okay, so what that means is if I graph it, draw a little quick sketch of a graph, this has a positive slope. Okay, so it's going up from left to right. A negative slope the line decreases left to right. And what that looks like, I'm just going to draw a quick sketch here. And I'll draw it in a different color so you can see. Say like this. That is a negative slope. So you get the idea here, okay? Positive slope and negative slope, and we're going to be continuing to discuss these as time goes on. So let's take a look at example 1. Just bear with me a second here. I'm going to move my paper. So in example 1, we're going to describe the slope of each line and then find the slope, and I'm going to show you a couple of ways. Now, taking a look at this line, if we're describing the slope, as we move from left to right, my picture is increasing to the right. This means that I have a positive slope. So, right away I know this is a positive slope. I'm just going to make some quick, so this is increasing left to right. So that means it's a positive slope. That's number 1. So there's a couple ways we can do this. One way we can do it is looking at the graph, and they've already labeled these 2 points for us. So let's take a look at this graph. The point from here, I'm just going to draw a line going up and down. If I were to go from one point to the other, I would go down 1, 2, 3, 4 units. And this one would go to the left. Or if I say I'm going from left to right, I would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units to the right. So I'm going to draw this arrow, and this is 6 units to the right. And then I would go 1, 2, 3, 4 units up. And as I said before, slope is equal to the rise over the run. In this case, the changes from my y's over the changes in my x, which is 4 over 6. If I reduce that, I get 2/3. This distance represents my rise. This distance represents my run. So that's one method, is using the picture, so my slope would be equal to 2/3. Another method is to use the formula for finding the slope, and I know those of you who had accelerated last year did learn this formula. I'm just going to pick a new color for you. And the formula says, okay, m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So this method, we could use the points that are used in this problem. So if we take a look at these points, this point in particular is 3, 2. And this point over here is -3, -2. So those are my 2 points that I'm looking at. If we plug them into this formula, right, I'm going to have 2 points. And this is where it can get a little confusing. I'm going to show you a third method, which I think you're going to probably like. So I'll show that to you next. And this is, let's call this x2 comma y2, and this is x1 comma y1. So to fill it into this formula, we would have y2, which is 2, minus y1, which is -2, over x2, which is 3, minus x1, which is -3. When I do that, I end up making these plus a positive, and I get 4 over 6, again, which reduces to 2/3. So that's a different method to find slope. A third method to find slope is this method that Mr. Padilla and I actually kind of came up with last year, 2 years ago, when we were talking about finding slope. And I'm going to use this a lot in class. And this is my XY chart. So I'm going to take my 2 points in any order, and I'm going to plug them in. 3, 2, and -3, -2. I'm going to draw the Mask of Zorro. I call it the Mask of Zorro. And basically, do this and this. We're going to fill these little zigzags in there. I'm going to subtract 2 minus -2 gives me a 4. And 3 minus a -3 gives me 6. And that leaves me with 4/6, which equals 2/3. So here's 3 different ways you can find slope. We're going to do the same process now for this next one. I'm really not going to focus too much on the formula. If you like the formula, you can do that, most certainly. But the way I'm going to show it is going to be using this chart. I am going to just show you the rise over the run in the picture, but basically I'm going to be using the chart mostly. But I wanted to show you all 3 so that if you like one way better than another, you've got it. Okay. So here for this problem, this point is 0, 2, and this point is 2, -1. Those are my 2 points. So if I use this method that I just showed you last, which is the XY chart, I have 0, 2, 2, -1. Mask of Zorro backwards. and subtract. 0 minus 2 is negative 2, and 2 minus a negative 1 is positive 3. That gives me 3 over negative 2, which is equal to negative 3 over 2. So that's one way. The other way I showed you was the rise over the run. And one way is to look, my line is decreasing as I go from left to right, so my slope must be negative, right? That's why we got that negative. But this point, we would go down 3 units. And then right 2 units. So down 3 would be negative 3. To the right 2 is positive 2. Here it was going right, which is positive, and up, which is positive. Here we go down and right. So this again would be negative 3 over 2. So that's it for example 1A and B. Please take a look at the next video for example 2.